I think that it's been interesting how life has progressed, and that book really, like many of us, when we have a moment in just an ordinary part of our lives, I'm sure you've had these moments where it's almost like a Polaroid picture is taken. You can remember so clearly everything about that moment, and for me, I had one of those moments. I was a counselor in private practice. I had just moved into a new house. I sort of was in a place where I think many women feel like you kind of have it all, you know, in that place. And it wasn't all that I wanted. It just didn't feel that way. And I remember just feeling sort of empty in my own spirit, just not really loving, not really kind of full like I would hope to be, and really struggling with, is this really all there is? Is this really the life that I'm meant to live? And I remember my husband came home from work one night, and 5 o'clock is just like a terrible time. Every woman who has young children knows. It's just like the 5 o'clock hour lasts like 18 hours. And I remember him walking in, and I had a little baby at the time, and I handed Desmond, our littlest, off to him, and just came and stood on my porch. And it was a spring day. I remember it so clearly. And I stood there, and I think I had a dish towel, I had a burp cloth. I just was taking a break from that 5 o'clock hour. And I looked down my street. The sky was really blue. The crepe myrtles were pink. It just was a picturesque, picture-perfect street. And we had met our neighbors, and I started thinking about each woman in every house, about 8 houses. And they represent, there's, you know, lots of different faiths, people who have faith, people who don't. And I started to feel like, you know what? I am no different than any woman on this street. Faith or not, we want to love our families, we want to love our kids, we want to have purpose in the world. I don't feel any different for all I claim that Jesus is. And I had been to seminary at this point. I taught the Bible. I also was supposed to be an expert in like relationships, because that's how it feels when you're a counselor. It's like you should probably be pretty healthy. So I'm supposed to be all these things, and I'm thinking, I don't know that I feel like I'm experiencing the transformation that Jesus offers, because shouldn't that transformation matter in this ordinary place? And I don't feel it. Now, of course, that's paralleled with all these things I'm hearing in counseling. So I'm experiencing this myself, processing that life. Meanwhile, I'm also talking with lots of women, all ages, all stages, and I'm hearing some similar themes emerge. So the book really came out of that Polaroid moment of, what does it really mean, and is being a Christian actually supposed to change the makeup of who I am? Honestly, Jesus really was only about one thing at the end of the day. It was about loving God and loving people. And if you're really failing at love, that's probably like a huge red flag, you know? And honestly, we let it happen all the time. Oh, I'm stressed, I'm busy, I'm preoccupied, and I'm thinking, what are the main themes that are emerging that really hinder women from loving? And I'm not talking about, you know, family background and patterns, although those things are important. I'm not talking about past wounds or trauma from our childhood, although those things are really important. But the reality is there's a huge amount of women who are just experiencing life, and on the outside, they actually look like they pretty much have it together. But on the inside, there's a lot of turbulence and things going on, and that's where the book really came from. It's what are those more ordinary issues that we sort of shrug off and we kind of accept as personality, as stress, as preoccupation, as whatever, that are truly not letting us love the way that Christ intended us to love. And that was my front porch moment, was just, I feel empty, I feel dry, I don't feel like I have an abundance. I have an abundance of a lot of things, but I do not have an abundance of love. And that's where it came from, was what if we slowed ourselves down to really almost be our own scientists? What if you were your own scientist, and you spent a week evaluating yourself and experiencing the way that you go through life in your inner world and in your relational world? What would emerge as some of those things that are hindering you? They might not be these really obvious chains, but maybe they're really, really thin chains that are kind of hindering you. They're keeping you from freedom and a full expression of the love that Christ intended you to live. What if we actually paid attention to those and saw what happened?